And I love him, but Q is a 7th season wedding of a character. Like he is cousin Oliver incarnate.
He's a lot to introduce in the first episode.
Right. So like in your first, he's something to bring on when you've run out of storytelling shit and you just want a chaos engine. And like to open with him.
We meet Q before we meet Riker.
Episode 471 of the TV Dudes, recorded January 15th, 2024. Everything's gonna be okay. This week on the TV Dudes, we're taking a Patreon request for our show of the week. John Paul, longtime listener and friend of the show, has graciously stepped in at the showrunner level on patreon.com/tvdudes. John Paul's show selection is one that I've heard him praise for a while. Freeform's comedy series, Everything's Gonna Be Okay. But before we get to all that, I guess we should say, I'm Les.
And I'm Nick.
And we're the TV Dudes.
Also, John Paul, singing a show's praises on Facebook for a long time really means nothing.
It does not narrow it down. He watches way more TV than we do. Yeah. But this is one I'd heard him talk about, and I'd heard him praise one of the lead actors, and was excited that he picked it. So we'll talk about it here in a bit. But before that, let's do our TV Diaries.
The Diaries of the Television Dudes. Brought to you by only the finest cocaine wine.
Nick, what did we watch?
Oh my god. Well, we finished Skeleton Warriors.
Yes, we did. Skeleton Warriors. They're bad to the bone, Nick.
I mean, Skeleton Warriors was, for those unfamiliar, we did that for a Patreon, and we've been keeping up with it because we actually, man, I gotta say that
awesome.
we didn't keep up with vampires. I would also watch vampires probably all the way through. It's nowhere near as good, but
but it's interesting.
Without spoiling too much for this week's Patreon, Captain Simeon, this has been a fun, really unexpected pleasure Patreon-wise for me.
Man, I expected these to be nostalgia fun for me, but we've actually found ones that I didn't watch and are great. Captain Simeon, not to spoil, but
the idea was we'll find some old cartoons neither of us have watched and make fun of them and just But Skeleton Warriors is legitimately pretty good in regards to 90s animation.
Yeah,
and the building
the voice
story.
cast. The story was cool. I would love to. They add that werewolf character thing. They got a big skeleton horse.
So the werewolf character, I've not looked into it, but the werewolf character is definitely their dad, right?
I don't know,
it has
man.
To
he
be
just
their
seems
dad.
like an out of nowhere
Now I have to go look online for old fucking forgotten scripts.
They can't have already been at the phase 2 of the toys and been add another villain. This place has an embarrassment of villains.
An embarrassment of riches, or an embarrassment of skeletons.
Of skeletal riches.
I am very interested in what the next season would have been, considering the season finale is basically sets a status quo of they won, but also, there's still stuff to clean up and do, and there's that werewolf guy we never fucking mentioned.
Yeah, and also we don't have the power source that previously ran this society. I'm interested to see what they run the world on without the crystal.
Also, I love that everyone gets a mini companion for the toys. Darkstalker got Grimskull got Stalker, his wolf friend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Talon's got Ariana. I forget what the fuck her hawk's name is.
Yeah. What did Print Lightstar have?
Nothing. He's again, because he's the most boring character. I saw the episode where Talon was blind, and I love that she used the hawk to go tell my brothers that I'm fine. And I'm like, hey, you have a seeing eye hawk, bitch. You have a telepathic
connection to us. Yeah, you should be able to.
You should be using this as the eyes. Am I not the only one?
All the time. Yeah.
Just fucking whatever. They de-skeletonized Shriek for a second, so you get to see her hot, normal forms again.
Man, that was a weird moment in a kid's cartoon. Like the prince plays her as like, well, maybe I have been attracted to you. She never told you you have nice bones. And like goes in for the kiss on her skeleton face and uses it to slip a hand into her ribs, which fresh. And then rip the jewel off of her and turn her human.
Yeah, intense.
The weirdest moment for me is the offer that the villain makes to Grimskull, and Grimskull's been like this halfway between human and fleshy
the
and
final
skeleton
offer
the
he
whole
makes
time.
to Grimskull.
And and as soon as he said it, I was like, shit, that might actually work, but that's really brilliant. You can't do that. What he says is, I can make you human. Because we know that we can turn human skeleton by tearing the jewel off of where it grows, like this weird jewel that grows in them. So we know that works, and we know that I can turn you into a skeleton. So if you let me turn you into a skeleton, then you can choose to turn yourself human. And
but you're not going to want to when you're a skeleton, you're not going to want to unskeletonize yourself.
Yeah. Like but he's not wrong. Like it is such a flawless, like Faustian devil's bargain thing that I was like, damn, children's show.
Respect.
Yeah, Skeleton Warriors is badass. And this week on Patreon, of course, we'll be discussing other 90s cartoons like Captain Simeon. Which, if you don't know what I'm talking about, you should check it out.
Not sure exactly it's not like a theme we came up with or intentionally went with. I'm not sure when it'll be done. I guess whenever we get bored with these. But it is...
We got to run out of them sometime.
I'm greatly enjoying it so far.
Yeah. Hopefully y'all are too. What else you watch?
Shit. I don't think I watched very much now that I think about it.
Yeah. You're pretty busy. I know you watched some Lower Decks, but yeah.
Yep, Lower Decks.
I watched Vice Versa, the body swap movie from the 80s,
right.
one of like a whole theme of those. I think John Paul on Facebook actually mentioned that he couldn't believe that there's a whole like ski movie genre that there was for a little while. In a similar vein,
sure.
I can't believe
there
are enough body swap parent movies. I mean, they just made Family Switch. It's a full genre, like the Freaky Friday-ness of it. Vice Versa trades on the fact that Judge Reinhold, it just seems like a giant child. And Fred Savage seems like a very small asshole of an adult. And it's
a joke,
regardless
of
all the other goofiness. Yeah, like it is a gift that keeps giving in every scene. I couldn't believe how, I mean, this movie is both exactly what I remember when I saw it in the theater, and also it holds up in that sense. Like, I don't know if you ever thought this movie was good, you probably still think this movie's good. Because, man, I'll watch Fred Savage. How is he not a meme? I'll watch Fred Savage sit with a martini in his hand and go, ugh. Like, it's hilarious. Like
him drinking that martini is funny. Then him reading the Wall Street Journal is funny.
Yes. Yeah, it's just it's always funny. Like I just want, there should be endless gifs of this. Get on it, interwebs. I also watched Class Act, which did not hold up. I don't know if anybody's revisited Kid and Play movies. Maybe I'm the only one that ever watched them all originally.
Dude, you're the first person I've heard in a while even mention Kid and Play. So.
Oh yeah. So Class Act is a solid premise. Two kids get mixed up. One's like the baddest kid at the school. One's a total nerd. Their files get mixed up and they get put in the wrong classes at a school. Like, easy setup. Wow, this is badly executed. It's just painful. Like at every turn, like it is screwball enough that I want it to work, but oh god, in about 25 minutes or so, I was like, I can't. I'm sorry, Kid and Play. I wanted to. I tried. Also watched a lot more Bob's Burgers. As always, I'm halfway through Bob's Burgers. I will always be halfway through Bob's Burgers. I think they're making them at the right pace. Fanny threw on a random episode of Succession, which was oddly one I'd seen before. I always feel like that's the way with shows that you don't watch. Like, I have seen the same 3 episodes of Succession. I've seen like 3 episodes of Game of Thrones, but I've seen them twice. Like, yeah. I don't know how you always manage to sit down for the same episode again. For years, my hometown didn't have Fox or MTV. We were one of the southern towns that threw a fit and got rid of Fox and MTV for, moral reasons. And so I didn't have The Simpsons. Like when the whole country was going like, eat my shorts crazy. I did not know about Bart Simpson, and
You had no shorts to eat.
I had no shorts to eat. I was I got shorted.
I have no shorts, but I must eat.
And the couple of times that I got to stay with like my dad or a cousin or somebody like in Dallas or somewhere that had Fox on a Sunday night, because you're going to miss school on Monday if you manage this, I saw the fucking Christmas episode 3 times. 3 times. No, I'm not saying it's not funny.
Yeah, but like, you're like, God damn it.
Damn it. Like, I'm going to get to watch this. It's just, like, if I felt like in Crocodile Dundee when he flips the TV on, he's like, it's I Love Lucy, and he's like, yep, that's television. Like, if you only turn it on once every 20 years, you just get a rerun. Then, of course, we watched Everything's Gonna Be Okay, which we'll talk about in a bit. I watched Dolomite Is My Name, the Eddie Murphy Dolomite movie, which it's the second time I've seen it. I watched it when it first came out. Man, it holds up. It's really cute. It's really sweet and funny. I remember it being like the big, like, there was a lot of pressure on it, like Eddie Murphy returned to comedy. It holds up without that. I think it benefits from some time away from it and going back and watching it. Really sweet movie. I also watched on a cartoon tear some Static Shock.
I saw that on your list. I really liked Static Shock.
Always good. Always fantastic. Every single episode. I was watching through the bit where Gear first gets his powers.
Yeah, he's a late bloomer.
Yeah, and he's like, well, I wasn't even there. And he's like, yeah, but you hung out with me for the whole day after, and my clothes were soaked in it. And like, oh, shit.
They give a pretty plausible explanation for why Richie gets powers in season 2 rather than right away.
Right, and they're kind of different powers, and as more stuff's happening, like they kind of make it part of a larger thing. Of
also,
like,
I like
Richie's
that
getting
kind of in an anime style, like Sailor Moon way of like Static has a power set, like he controls electricity. But also he can do different stuff with it. Like he can manipulate metal. Like he can move stuff. By changing the polarity of it or whatever.
Yeah. However they loosely
he's like a low-level Magneto. He can also like create flashbangs like to blind people. And he can also like shock people, and like the shooting electricity is not his only like move. Like he can do other stuff.
It's not just like throwing lightning bolts like Zeus. Yeah, they give him like some power extrapolation, and as he gets better at being static.
The only thing that I really wish Static Shock would do is that the terrible name for their powered people, Bang Babies.
Oh yeah, Bang Babies. Jesus God.
It's pretty awful.
Yeah, it's bad. It's bad.
Like I know Young Justice is pretty lazy for just calling them metas and metahumans, but
right.
I guess it could be worse.
No, it's Dakota's got the worst of it all. Yeah, Bang Babies is just the worst. But overall, Static Shock's the shit. If everybody's seen Static Shock. But if you like cartoons at all and you've heard that show's great, but you've never just like actually sat down and watched it, incredibly enjoyable show.
They never got down with like they did some crossovers with Batman and the League and Justice League.
Oh yeah.
And one of them that I remember they said like, "Hey, where's Robin?" Like, "Oh, he's with the Titans." Like, what? Oh, you'll meet them one day. And I was so excited that they were gonna like Static Shock was gonna meet up with the Teen Titans, which he does in the comics. He actually ends up being part of the team for a while in the comics, which is cool. But I always wanted to see him.
Yeah, I always wanted to see the animated of it.
The animated one of it. Although in Young Justice, they basically make him part of the team. Yeah, I mean,
oh yeah,
they call them like the Outsiders or whatever, but they're the Teen Titans. Like,
yeah. And then also watched Penny Dreadful. Fanny and I were looking for new series to watch.
Man,
she's been into horror.
That's a show that
lately.
I've tried multiple times to get into.
I really enjoyed it.
It's pulpy and weird, and I feel like I should like it, but I get bored with it like after a certain point.
That's what so we watched the first episode, and I'm remembering this show being an incredibly slow burn that I really enjoyed in retrospect, but at the time I remember thinking like, get the fuck on with showing me the monster here.
Mm-hmm.
The first episode is great. And that's like, I got done, was like, this is a lot more exciting than I remember now. Like, I'm pretty sure the next episode through
they can all fucking open.
Yeah. Yeah. They can all start. Because man, that first episode is Tim Dalton and Eva Green, I think, hiring Josh Hartnett.
Josh Hartnett as this drunk cowboy. No,
yeah, it's and like when
the premise is great.
When they take him through an opium den and then they go down some stairs and shit into like some kind of like gray light world where vampires like the vampire mob lives. I love that, like, they come out of Hartnett doesn't say a word through. They tell him, like, don't hesitate, don't ask any questions. And, like,
Yeah.
he comes all the way through it. And, like, a few minutes later, after all the dust is settled, he just looks at Tim Dalton and goes, what the fuck was that?
They hire a drunk cowboy to hunt Frankenstein's monster and, like, all the Universal movie monster shit
and Dorian Gray shows up. The devil shows up.
In a trashy style, like,
Victorian
novel.
It's this is what a League of Extraordinary Gentlemen movie was supposed to look like, I think.
Yeah, well, I mean, even the name Penny Dreadful admits to, like, what it, like, and it's, the premise itself is really, like, I think it wasn't trashy enough for me. Like, the following episodes just, like, are trying to build a mood and an atmosphere, and I'm like, no, guys, like, get American Horror Story with this. Throw more.
Yeah, exactly. I think the pacing is what kept me from going back, like, praising this all the time and rewatching it. Because I'd forgotten how good the first step was, and it is quite good. If you've ever thought about starting Penny Dreadful, I recommend starting it. I don't know if you'll finish.
That's the first time I've ever heard. I recommend starting it. I don't know if I recommend finishing it.
You can make your own decision on that somewhere in the middle. There's 3 seasons. I don't think I finished it out, and Dracula shows up in the 3rd.
Well, I mean,
in that first episode, Frankenstein's monster wakes up at the fucking credits, and it's awesome. It's great.
Yeah.
Like, I forgot how much I do love their portrayal of Frankenstein's monster, because he's intelligent and mad about it. Like, you dickweed! How dare you wake me up?
How dare you create me?
Right. It's great. It's great. Well, this feels like a good time to mention that you can support the TV Dudes over at Patreon.com.
Oh shit! Wait.
Oh,
I forgot. I watched so much TNG.
Oh shit!
I watched so much Next Generation this week. That's why my TV Diaries are so short. I didn't watch anything else.
I don't think of you as I know you really well, and I don't think of you as a Trekkie. So explain.
Well, I mean, whenever I watch Lower Decks, I like to think that I like Star Trek, and then every time I go back to
how's that working out for you?
Try and rewatch it, I'm like, nah, I guess it's the same. It's the same. It's not quite the same as Star Wars for me, because I feel like Star Wars has made more of a mess of its own lore and canon, and, like, did I ever really like Star Wars? Like, but Lower Decks has the boiled down premise of what I like about Star Trek, in this idealistic nerds go to space to explore stuff, and humanity is going to figure it out. We might run into some stuff along the way, but we figured, and that's what I like about Star Trek. And all the Star Trek shows are, I'm like, and it's really, I think it's the length, is that, oh, right, this is 45 minutes. This is not 22 minutes of a funny breeze stuff that Lower Decks is.
No, they have to get into it every episode.
And TNG and all the other Star Trek shows are, honestly, they don't acknowledge how silly they are.
Yeah. No, they're all in, like, polyester leotards, and they just not
Holy
acknowledging.
Shit, they are all, like, in the most unfuckable uniforms.
Oh my lord, the Star Trek uniforms are so unflattering. I don't know how we don't talk about this all the time. Like, I don't know how every Trekkie doesn't lead with, like, I love Star Trek, but God, those uniforms.
Yeah, they're just they're a
no
bummer.
One looks good in those.
Honestly, like, basically people with curvy figures, like, it's one of those things of, like, you can't.
Depends on what direction you're curvy. If you got a belly out at all, man, that is not a flattering onesie.
Honestly, they can't hire anyone with hips or breasts, really. Everyone has to have, like, a B cup or lower, because honestly, anyone curvy enough, the spandex might start to work for them.
Right.
Too much.
And that's against Federation.
And that's against Federation code.
It's not the prime directive, but it's up there.
It's the.
Like, I feel like 7 of 9 just, like, blew people's minds.
Yes.
Like I know Deanna Troi has cleavage, but, like, I think 7 of 9 was like, there's a sexy person on Star Trek, huh? And it's not Riker, you say.
Prime meat directive.
No, I mean, Riker's bringing the sexy, like, every episode.
So I finally made it through season 1 of Next Gen, which I've tried multiple times to start watching, because that's the one I watched when it was on when I was a kid.
I had not ever really thought of it like the first season of Parks and Rec, but watching you try to watch it, it really is.
Oh
It's a
man,
rough
that
fucking
first
start,
season
man.
is rough, and they don't know what to do with, well, one, their female characters in general, and that I don't think that ever really goes away. But honestly, Worf isn't. They have a fucking Klingon on a starship, and they barely bring him up in the first season.
Yeah.
They don't really do anything. I'm like, what? And he's not security officer. Tasha Yar is, which you think would make like, oh, okay, that's cool. Except that they don't do anything with her.
No, to the point that the actress quit.
Yeah, and she just dies to Armus, which they just make
Right.
fun of in a lower decks gag.
And
later.
then they at the end of the season they fired
Beverly
Gates
Crusher,
McFadden,
like yeah.
and then begged her back in season 3.
So it's weird their focus on season 1 and where it switches to season 2. And honestly, and I think I've been on this when we watched Picard.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like Q. I think Q sucks. Q
Yeah.
is as a show trying to ask me to take Batmite seriously, and I don't know why I'm asked to do that.
I think for me, Q scratched the itch because we didn't have like there's no Star Trek that was doing what Lower Decks is doing, which is like loving it but being silly. And Q is the like, so you guys recognize all this is ridiculous. Watch this.
Right,
And like
but no one else is having fun with Q, and honestly, Q is too much of a magical being. Like they say he's they're an advanced being. The Q continuum are so advanced they can do all this other shit, but it's basically magic, and I don't like that in a
Right.
sci-fi element of that this guy can come down and fuck with them whenever and however he wants.
I have to think that it was meant as a parallel to, and they don't play it like this though, but I think it makes a good parallel to the Prime Directive of like you were said like them trying to explain to the proto-Vulcan planet of like, hey, so it's not magic, we're not gods, it's just super high tech. Only Q's the opposite of that. I'm a god.
Yeah, I'm a god, and everyone's kind of like, whatever, Q.
I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure you're from a civilization that has a Prime Directive and you're thumbing your nose at it by coming and fucking with us.
Lower Decks is never going to use him because I like Lower Decks one time mentioned Q of like, oh yeah, whenever Q shows up. Oh, god damn it.
No, that's the best joke they can do
Oh
with Q
man,
because
don't like shut up, Q. We don't have time for your bullshit today.
like if in like when they fuck up a comedy duo and like you get like 2 Chris Farleys together or like 2 David Spades together, like no, it doesn't work. Like you got to pair it up. Q fucks up Lower Decks joke.
Yeah.
Like Q can't be there. He's a clown in the wrong set. Like it. Yeah, he fucks their joke up. I like the best joke that Lower Decks can do was the one they did for Q, where I think Boimler says his name or something, and everybody's like, "Shut up."
That's in the crossover episode of with Strange New Worlds.
They haven't met him
they
yet.
don't know about
say
Q
his
yet.
name.
Shut up.
Like, shut the fuck up. like that's great. Like you just can't like be careful that you even mention Batmite.
Look, he's omnipotent. God damn it. Yeah, which is weird because he starts the series. Like in season 1.
I can't believe he's there so early on.
In season 1 and 2, it feels like the main point of the story is to prove to Q that humanity is worth a shit. And I honestly don't care if what Q thinks about it.
And I love him, but Q is a 7th season wedding of a character. Like he is cousin Oliver incarnate.
He's a lot to introduce in the first episode.
Right. So like in your first, he's something to bring on when you've run out of storytelling shit and you just want a chaos engine.
Right. And
like to open with him makes it feel like that. Is he not what the show's about?
We meet Q before we meet Riker.
Right. So like it would lead me to think that this is a show about the Q continuum.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like if not for the history of Star Trek before it, if the Orville just opened like this, you would think the Orville's about Q.
Sure.
Or at least like he's going to be the main, he's the big bad, right? Like no, he may not turn up. He may not turn up again for 3 seasons. I don't know.
I mean, and what I think I made my way. I'm through season 3 now.
Yeah, well, so getting through season 2, you started to come up on some episodes where you were like, "Hey, so this is really pretty solid." And then, is it the season 3 finale? No, season 2 finale ends with.
Season 3 finale is the Borg.
Is Locutus.
Is Locutus the Borg? Yeah.
Of Borg, and then so season 4 opens up with
Locutus.
With them getting Locutus.
About to be assimilated.
Yeah, and then this cliffhanger. Didn't you say that somebody yelled at Patrick Stewart?
So don't quote me on it, but I think the story was that Patrick Stewart was in traffic the summer, like the year that came out, and they were waiting for fall to come back for the new season because they left it on the cliffhanger of I am Locucius the Borg, like resistance is futile, and then Riker's like
Yeah.
fuck that fire, and about to destroy the Enterprise and Picard, and so he in traffic, a family basically rolled down their windows when they were next to him because they saw it was fucking Patrick Stewart next to him, and they rolled down their windows, and when he rolled it down, they yelled, "You ruined our summer!" And then they drove
You
off.
son of a bitch. That's great. Oh, that's hilarious.
It was basically like, yeah, it was the end game before the Marvel Cinematic Universe or like a Game of Thrones. Like, it was the thing that everyone was kind of watching, apparently, and people were pissed about that cliffhanger.
That's hilarious.
But yeah, the season 3, like, they start to use Worf more. They are better about just their storytelling in general. They tell more interesting stories. They have better, the Borg. The Borg are a better bad guy than the Ferengi. They try and use the Ferengi in the
Yeah.
first season, and they quickly realize the Ferengi aren't that threatening.
Yeah.
So then they try and go to the Romulans in season 2, and even then it's kind of like, well, we've been there and done that. That's not exactly new. And so they make the Borg, which I think are a pretty great villain
Yeah.
that they can assimilate with the other one. And yeah, you can start to see the pattern of how the budget when they need to. Well, we don't really have that much budget for this. Like a lot of the budget's going for the final 2 episodes of this season. So we're gonna hang out in caves this one, or on an class planet, or this one takes place entirely on the Enterprise with mostly one character. Oh man, season 2 ends with a clip show based off of Riker's mind, where they reuse footage that didn't get used in season 1 and previous takes and stuff, like unused footage, and it's pretty brilliant.
Yeah, that's pretty great. I don't know of very many shows that have not done exactly a clip show, but actually done extended takes.
But they're not exactly clip shows. It shows parts of scenes, but then they extend those scenes forward. And it shows even in season 1, post like Riker without the beard, and it's not like they shaved Riker's beard.
Right.
They just had that footage. And I was like, oh, and it's like his first interaction with Data. He calls him Pinocchio, and then Data's like, oh, what's that? Is that a joke? And it starts Data's whole thing with humor. And I was like, oh, that's really cute and cool. And man, there's a lot of stuff that is interesting about the show that you can tell is just a scheduling decision or writing thing of like, we don't want to write ourselves in a corner. I don't know what Guinan is, and the show is kind of not into explaining what,
it.
Like,
Guinan is a character that fits Whoopi Goldberg's schedule is what Guinan is.
Right, exactly. Like, she shows up when they need her to, and Q hates her, so I like her immediately.
All right. Now, this feels like a good time to mention that you can support us over at patreon.com/tvdudes.
That's right.
Throw us a buck an episode, get bonus content each week. This week, we're talking about the criminally unknown 90s cartoon series, Captain Simeon and the Space Monkeys.
Captain Simeon and the Space Monkeys.
There's also, higher levels they can do for Patreon in order to get other rewards, correct?
Yes, there are. At $20, we'll watch and discuss at least 4 episodes of anything, any show you want. Anything. And speaking of the showrunner level, let's get into our main course for the week.
Holy shit.
Everything's going to be okay. This is John Paul's showrunner choice. Everything's Going to Be Okay is an American comedy series created by Australian comedian Josh Thomas. Thomas plays Nicholas Moss, a neurotic gay Australian entomologist in his 20s. Nicholas becomes the guardian to Genevieve and Matilda. Right? Genevieve and Matilda are his 2 half-sisters, and when their father dies at the start of the series, he becomes their guardian. Kayla Cromer plays Matilda, Nicholas's autistic half-sister. Cromer herself is autistic and said, I believe in an interview, that she believes it may have helped her land the part. Maeve Press plays younger sister Genevieve. Everything's Gonna Be Okay premiered on Freeform January 16th, 2020. And in August 2021, series was canceled after 2 seasons. I now feel the pain of that because this is a really good show. So let's jump in. So the first episode's a double episode. It's like 40 something minutes. And then every other one, this thing was on Freeform. It's locked in. It's 21 minutes a pop. This show flies by.
I feel like we should at first mention too that when John Paul recommended this, I was skeptical. I think is a polite term for
had some
it.
trepidation.
But I will say this, John Paul Vitale, I should not have doubted you. You fucking hit it out of the park. This show is awesome. I loved it.
Absolutely great. I have actually already gotten Fanny watching it. So
it's
we made
really
another fan
funny
as well. It is hilariously funny.
And unlike any other show I have watched, really.
Yeah, it's quick, it's quirky. Reminds me of Generations, but faster paced. Everything down to the editing seems to support the style of humor. Like it is very much Josh Thomas's show. And Kayla Cromer's fantastic. Maeve Press is fantastic. They're the two daughters, the little sisters are both fantastic. I really thought I was going to hate the pseudo boyfriend, Adam Faison. And I come to like him in the times when I hate Nicholas and vice versa. So it works out.
Yeah. No. Honestly, the hardest obstacle for me to come over with the show is Nicholas as the main character himself, because he comes off as pretty self-involved and kind of
fantastically needy.
Just, oh my God, he's so needy.
And I mean, that character will be the first to admit it. Like he rolls into a room of like, everybody smile, I'm here.
But he goes back from episode to episode when he has a good moment with the kid, with the girls that he's, trying to parent. This latest episode did not make him look great with the...
No, in Mexico, no.
No. And I suppose like it shouldn't be shocking that at the end of this season, I think we watched 6 episodes, I think.
Yes, so we're through episode 6. The first one, episode 1 is like a 40-minute. You have to deal with the loss of the father.
Holy shit!
Which,
and the
oh
father,
my God,
dies.
I love the dad character. They sold that so quick, and man, the way they.
You think you're gonna watch him like expire? Like they just hard cut. The editing of the show is great in the fact that it kind of cuts in a really awkward and
frequently makes a joke.
What seems to be ill-timed thing, but also it sells certain jokes, and I feel is representative of the characters themselves that are on the spectrum.
Yeah, I feel like it keeps you in that like things are just kind of happening to
how
you.
They
sometimes.
like kind of how they experience life in this jarring kind of manner, and I thought that was pretty interesting. And
when it just slams to him trying to tie his tie before that funeral.
It slam cuts to dad alive and them talking about who should take over to he's tying his tie at his dad's funeral. Like just slam cut. And I remember laughing. I was just like, just fucking bold move. Everything is okay.
Well, and this show gets away with that laugh a lot. Like there's a lot of times where you find yourself just howling at a just brutal joke or like the darkest situation. It really nicely done. Also, I mean, a couple of the parenting moments, like for a train wreck of a guardian, a couple of the drug thing is hilarious. There's an episode where Maeve, I think, is turning 15, and or not Maeve. I'm sorry, that's the actress's name. Genevieve is turning 15 and has her 2 friends over. Her 2 friends are the worst. Well, okay, one of her friends is the worst, and then one of her friends is fine.
I didn't want to do it. Yeah, we know that, Blair.
Yeah, we know that. Beth, whatever the fuck her name is.
Blair. Just like, we all know your dynamic in this going on here, Blair. We know your role.
And who is the... I'm going to pull up the thing. Who is the terrible friend?
Oh, the blonde bob cut?
Yes.
Like, the blonde Edna Mode. She's fucking awful. Just fucking unbelievable, this bitch. And... after a scene in like the funeral, I thought like, oh, okay, she seems to be there's a reason they're friends.
Tallulah.
Only for them to be, Her in the drug episode was a lot to handle as well.
Oh man. So yeah, Tallulah is Ivy Wolk is Tallulah, which
Mhm.
I mean, for the character she's supposed to be playing, Wolk is killing it. She's an absolute maniac. She finds some like a prescription bottle and doles out pills to everybody because their peach schnapps got confiscated by Nicholas. That the whole episode is just beautiful. It's the Matilda wants to get white girl wasted episode, I think.
Uh-huh.
And so yeah, they get hammered on the peach schnapps that they've confiscated from the little sister. Then the little sister all do a prescription drug, and I'm sitting there the whole time going, did she say what bottle that was? Because their dad had terminal cancer. Like there could be serious painkillers, like
Sure.
lay upstairs and quietly expire while no one notices painkillers up there. Like this is not, man, you can't fuck. I don't think the show's gonna go this dark, but fuck. And they really don't. The way they handle it is absolutely great. It turns out it's blood pressure medicine.
Yeah.
So the girl that thinks she's ODing is just panicking, and the way that Nicholas handles it of just like how embarrassing this is and letting like, no, sit here for a moment, soak in it. Just how embarrassing. Like, yep, you're teaching this lesson. Getting them all three to admit to each other that they were all pretending to be really, really high is just hilarious.
Well, there's a great moment where he breaks his finger.
Yes, in episode 2.
Nicholas breaks his finger trying to get back into the house, and they have a huge discussion, like telling a story to distract him from it. It's a whole chaos scene. It's how the episode ends, and they're telling a story, or he's telling a story about them because they can't tell him a story because he wouldn't be the center of attention. And it's really cute. It felt that there's moments in the show that felt like, oh, that feels very real, like someone's real experience with people, like a family on the spectrum.
It's a story about her suicide note that names him expressly.
Yeah. I don't want to blame anyone except Nicholas.
I hope he feels pointedly bad or something like that. Like, my God.
This is no one's fault but him specifically.
Yes, this is no one else's fault but his.
But you didn't say it. You had this list, but you said suicide,
right?
Which is objectively hilarious.
Yeah. Every single episode is named after an insect. So the first episode is 7-spotted ladybug, green bottle blue tarantula.
Yeah, because he's an
giant Asian
etymologist.
mantis. Yeah, he's an etymologist. And yeah, man, everything about this show to me clicks as far as like what it's trying to do.
Right.
You know, who it's about, how that humor's got to aim, who it's for. It feels beautifully done. Of course, it's already canceled. Of course, I'm, coming to it late because I, for whatever reason, grudgingly won't watch shows that people tell me are good sometimes.
Well, honestly,
I believe there's something called Barty.
I'll fucking kill
Bori,
you.
Barry.
So I suppose I should talk about a couple of things that kind of don't work for me. Like overall, the show's really, really working so well. Well, because Nicholas is, I know ahead of time, you told me that he's going to be diagnosed with as being on the spectrum at the end of the season.
End of season 2, I think.
I don't know how mad I can be at him for some of his. There's some of his behavior that I'm pretty sure is like, no, you're being very selfish in this relationship with your boyfriend. You're not putting out the same need. Like when he needs space,
right.
You're hovering, and suddenly you expect him to give you all the space or whatever, and it's not fair. Like there's some unfairness going on in that relationship.
Yeah, like it would help me like Nicholas more if he were right now his Matilda's autistic, and they have a lot of open discussions on the show about her capacity and how to handle certain situations and cues that she can and can't read very well. But without any kind of diagnosis, Nicholas is just kind of a selfish dick.
Yeah.
Sometimes. And it's, he's adorable, so it plays off. But man, if you aren't crushing on Nicholas, I'd walk away from him sometimes. Like, I can't believe Adam Faison comes back multiple times.
Well, he's like in the, the trip to Mexico we just watched was
the second date being or third date being the dad having cancer.
Yes.
And then I mean, I know it's a time jump, so I guess there's probably been stuff between there, but it seems like the fourth date's the funeral.
Well, also there's that episode where he breaks up with him because one of the girls hates him, which is funny in that the girl has to like
Genevieve just can't stand him.
Yeah,
Which you gotta navigate that, man. Every step parent or everybody who's ever eventually step parents had to do.
I want to talk to you about the version of Genevieve that went to bingo.
That was hilarious. Taking her to bingo was also, man, that girl destroyed him.
I'm sorry, I know it's drag queen bingo, but it's still bingo. This is fucking and multiple times she expressed she did not want to be here.
Right. And then they made her do the whole walk up there and get pelted. And though all of the pelting was, I hit that bitch in the face. All of that was hilarious. But also you can just see this kid getting more and more miserable. And it like, man, I mean, I know Matilda would have like a meltdown here. I don't know that Genevieve will, but
well, that was one of the things too, is that
you're heading towards something. And man, when she erupts, it's like, hey, I didn't want to have to yell all this shit at you.
There's definitely other
now I do.
Autistic kids in the show because Matilda has a whole class that I feel is filled with kids on the spectrum.
Yes, the kid. I do like the kid that asks her out and says, "Now I'm only going to ask one more time because I can't ask more than twice. Not because I don't want to, but I've been told that twice is enough." And like, okay, good on whoever laid a hard he needed a hard fast rule. Like I don't understand, but can I ask more than one time? Well, yeah, sometimes. Okay, when? Well,
so okay. Matilda is not afraid to tell you how she feels about Joshua. Like, but he's a loser.
But he's a loser.
Fuck.
Yeah, because the other girl that is absolutely riot when she's just picking her apart. That first class, she kisses Josh or whatever. Yeah, that kid. And yeah, but why? He's a loser. Also, like your experiment was inherently flawed. Like, I don't know if I don't like kissing boys or if I don't like kissing him. Like,
well, your experiment is inherently flawed. You've kissed Joshua. You basically haven't kissed a boy yet. He's a nothing.
Yeah,
Matilda can be hard. I don't know why Matilda's hardcore meanness is shocking and funny because maybe it's because it doesn't happen all the time.
No, she's not always like that. And she's, she'll tell you she's watched enough YouTube videos to know what you're not supposed to say to people. Because isn't she the one that tells Genevieve?
She's the one that tells Genevieve, you're not supposed to say anything negative about someone's partner unless it is absolutely physically abusive. I've watched a YouTube video on it, you dummy. Like, everyone knows this.
I've seen a YouTube video on this.
Like, if you can sit down and explain social etiquette to Matilda in basic rule structure, she will get it.
Jeremy, that's the other kid. Yeah.
Which brings me to another episode that I thought was interesting that they bring up. It's not like they come down on who's right about it, but they make a big deal about Matilda having sex with this kid that after she was.
Well, she's been at a party, and we did note that like, oh my God, she's hitting that schnapps for like the 13th time.
And so she's drunk, but he's drunk too. And she was crying, but now is not crying. And basically they have sex. And honestly, it seemed like Zane Zane, it seemed like it was his first time. Like, he was kind of uncomfortable.
Zane was definitely terrible at it. It definitely seemed like, I mean, it was definitely a defensive, I know what I'm doing. But also, we watched the whole, like, the camera is present for the whole scene, other than the actual sex. But it is very much her idea.
Matilda later even says that, I don't understand why Zane's in trouble. I used him. I was mad because the other boy didn't want to have sex with me, and I wanted to fuck. So I used him to fuck. I ticked that box.
Yeah. Yeah, like, she's very clear that she got what she wanted, and if anything...
She's honestly kind of mean about it. Like...
Yeah.
Like, I didn't. I asked Zane to have sex with me. There wasn't a requirement it be good.
No, I used that pretty idiot. Yeah.
And I would love for it to be like, it's like Zane is like, I'm right here. Yeah, I know, Zane.
Right.
Shut up, Zane. I'm standing up for you.
Yeah. Well, and she finally gets. We were wondering how they were going to handle it because, man, when Genevieve punches him because Genevieve believes that she's been raped.
To say that from what we saw, and we should be fair to the characters, they didn't see what we saw, basically, I guess, is the only way I can excuse everyone else's take on it. Because how Matilda breaks it down, the only way you can say that she did not have the ability to consent to that is that her autism prohibits her to have that consent, which I feel is not true. Matilda is very high functioning. She knows.
And she basically gets her brother to admit that, like, yeah.
So are
Yeah.
you gonna follow me in my 30s and ask me ask a boy every time to so
Yeah.
that I'm
So
fully
can
sober?
she ever have agency?
Like, and she brings up a lot of good. She basically kicks his ass in that argument they have later.
Yeah, she destroys him in that debate.
And all Nicholas says is like,
Huh?
well, it's just complicated. I'm sorry. And she's asking for rules.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think I would have been more comfortable if Nicholas had just said that, like, you know what, you're right, it's your life and I shouldn't be involved in it on this level.
Yeah, I think that's where he needs to get to. And I kind of feel like it
Maybe
just came
that's
down
a
to
lesson he's supposed to learn at the finale, though. And I'm judging episode 6.
And that's
Nick.
the thing. I think they're kind of leaving it at like,
Yeah,
he's not there. Like because it kind of felt like I know I'm wrong, but I'm not there.
I guess it's one of those, again. It's a thing with like Letterkenny of like,
Mhm.
wait, is the inference here bothering me rather than what the show is actually saying, or what is it
Right.
what I'm inferring here? And
Yeah.
honestly, if at that point I'm like, I know it's a touchy subject, and that and Zane is 18 and she's 17.
Yep. And there is a statutory, like, it's a misdemeanor. They point
and
out, but
and
still.
yeah, that sucks. And honestly, Zane, Nicholas brings up like, well, no, it's black and white. Like, he broke a law, and
But we wouldn't. And
but when they're a year apart in the States, it's a misdemeanor. And he goes, what? And I'm like, what? That's and I'm sorry, that seems reasonable to me.
But it felt like to me also in that scene, like, not that I also did not want to see Genevieve get in trouble for almost breaking her knuckle against that kid's abs. Like, it was absolutely stupid that she was facing a suspension for that. But
Right.
Nicholas only brought up I will destroy you on social media. She is 17 and autistic and was drunk and crying. Like, I will wreck your son. Like, he only brings that threat up.
And to be fair, like they keep saying she was crying, and it's like she was crying.
Nobody was
during it. Like during it, she was very cogent.
But
and
he only brings that up to get Genevieve out. Yeah,
like repeatedly asked if they could have sex. To the point where she's kind of pressuring Zane. Like the other guy, the dad, was kind of being a dick, but he wasn't entirely wrong when he said that she kind of pressured Zane into it. Like, he kind of wasn't into it at first, and she basically like wore him down on it.
Yeah,
that it's.
And they are right that Zane felt it was somehow wrong or embarrassing.
I think Zane obviously knew that.
Being that it's high school, I don't know that he thought it was wrong. There's a lot of times in high school where,
look, man, there's a lot of times where you just
there's
don't
social
want,
strata. You just don't want other people to know.
And honestly, it could be for a bad reason, but honestly, it could just be that, look, it's private, and I don't want
it's high school. Yeah.
If Matilda would have asked to keep it secret, would that be a dick move? Like, I think that's fine that Zane doesn't want to like broadcast that he, lost his first time weirdly in the back of a fucking Winnebago. Like
honestly, it would have cracked me off if Matilda had looked at Zane and like patted him on the head and like, please don't tell anyone about this. You're so beneath my social standing intellectually.
Damn. Yeah, that does sound like Matilda though.
Like I'm going to an Ivy League school. Sorry, please don't tell anybody.
And really, like, Matilda never loses ground on it, which is the only thing that I think the show in its favor is like, okay, Matilda never turns on her own thing. Like, no, I wanted to fuck. I am 17 and horny, and that's fine.
And I think they were aware of what they were doing, because we had noticed that as the whole thing's blowing up all the way to the principal's office, Matilda's absent from all of these discussions.
Yeah.
Like it's all people standing up on Matilda's behalf, but not Matilda. And like nobody's going back and checking, like as it goes from like, she slept with Zane. Well, I heard it was bad.
I suppose,
I heard he was abusive. Well, I heard he's the worst. Well, I heard he's a pervert. And like, as it's escalating, no one's checking back with Matilda at all. She's not even in the scene. And when we were like, so this is more, and that's where I think the show's aware of it. This is more about other people's feelings about,
you know what?
I mean, like Netflix running, is it Netflix that ran Love on the Spectrum?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And people were like, are you allowed to do that? Like, are Are people on the spectrum allowed to fall in love? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if that seems squeamish to you, that's wonderful. That's exactly what it should elicit. Check that. You should check that in yourself.
Right. And it depends on their level of functionality too, and their understanding of the situation. And Matilda understood, like from what I saw, understood everything in her
Yeah.
situation and what it entailed to a
I
clinical level.
I would say that we're discussing this like this, like I feel like is another fucking point in the column for the like I'm really impressed. Like 21-minute show on
Mhm.
Freeform, and brought that issue up, got us talking about it, has some things to to try to point out a little bit about. I mean, as much as a 21-minute show on Freeform can do, and remain funny. Like, I laughed in all these episodes. I'm really amazed. We're definitely going to keep watching this show. We've got three episodes left, 4 episodes left, 7, 8,
Yeah.
9, 10
At least in
in
season one.
and then season 2 as well, which I understand adds Richard Kind and Maria Bamford.
I think
And I think loses Tallulah. I hope so. Tallulah is my least favorite character on the show.
man, she is rough. to
Ivy
get through sometimes.
Wolk, I think, is doing exactly what she's supposed to do. I just don't like Tallulah, like, a lot. Like if I were, man, if Genevieve can make her guardian try to break up with his boyfriend, as a guardian, I can make you try to leave that friendship, man. Tallulah sucks.
I think you definitely convinced me less on the because they spend the last part of that episode with Matilda just running roughshod over Genevieve and Nicholas about how if I look at it in that context, I think the show is like, no, Matilda's right.
I still wish they'd come down a little more clear on, like,
I guess what I need is Nicholas to say, I'm sorry for even fucking this
so
up.
I'm hoping that that's some growth. Like, as she keeps trying to tick these boxes off, he's going to have to deal with this. Can she go off on her own? Is
Yeah.
18 going to matter?
No,
Like,
yeah, if you think she can't consent to this, then there's a whole problem with Matilda.
right. We have larger problems about her being a functioning adult.
Right. Or and if you're just hung up about the sex part, I think you got to revisit that as well.
Right.
But also, I really like that Matilda, because of her being on the spectrum and not quite getting social cues, she actually is more adept in party situations than even her sister.
Yes.
Because her sister is very aware of social cues and is made uncomfortable by them.
Yeah. Is closer to, I don't know what neurotic means. I feel like that's got to be a wastebasket 50s term, but
Right.
yeah, like, her sister gets in her own head and has, like, anxiety and panic attacks about things.
But when Matilda decides to go in and go after the boy she likes or go into the party, she kind of like fucking owns it.
yeah, she kind of nails it. Like, oh my God, when she very first talks to him and like on the bus on the way, like, I watched some YouTube videos on it. I got this. And, like, she does. Like, you can watch her in the conversation. I saw that first episode twice because they're showing it to Fanny, and she stands there and, like, turns her toe in the thing and, like, you're so much smarter than me. And
Yeah,
she plays
touches
with her hair while
hair.
she says it. And I'm like, you watched a YouTube video and practiced this and you got it down. Damn, that's like watching somebody do a sleight of hand card trick. Like, and that shit's hard in high school. like that shit's difficult.
Don't worry about that. I got this. All you got to do is ask them a lot of questions about themselves and then pretend they're smarter than you and then kind of giggle. And I'm like, okay, that's really reductive to boys, but also that's going to work.
That's going to work. Yeah. We were watching that scene and, like, okay, that feels insulting, but also.
But that
yeah,
I've seen the live examples of that, and that will succeed. That's a winning strategy.
Going to work like a charm. Yeah. Kayla Cromer absolutely kills it as Matilda. She's hilarious. She's got a real,
She's
like,
easily my favorite
her.
character.
Yeah. Watching her, like, dance and have fun in the background. Oh God, when they decorate his room.
What a great moment when he asks, like, can I have a hug? And he's
Yes.
even when Nicholas we know is very needy, and she's like, oh, I'm not really into hugs. I kind of did them with Dad, and now that he's dead, very dead, remember? Like like yesterday when we buried him, that I was kind of done with all that.
Yeah. Which to me gets to two things. Like, it gets to both how the show talks about autism in an amazing way and, like, can be a great primer on how to handle, family and friend loved ones that are neurodivergent. But also the show's humor itself, like, just the joke of, like, so I kind of thought maybe I was done with hugs forever because Dad died.
But even after that,
Like, that's hilarious.
What does Nicholas ask?
Yeah.
He asks, okay,
Well,
well, what do you...
When I want to get the feeling that I should get from a hug, what do we do? That's a beautiful way to phrase that.
And she goes, and she honestly, she thinks about it and is like, oh, we can dance together.
Yeah.
And that totally, like, they come to this compromise between the two of them, fully talking about their feelings, what each one needs and is willing and is comfortable giving. And while being funny, because that first setup of that, of like, oh, I was kind of hoping that, with Dad's death, he's done with that old hug shit.
Well, and I think it's what keeps it. I mean, that on the one hand it's where they end the episode, and it's a perfect saccharine sitcom moment of getting the family back together after the funeral, and they're dancing together and throwing the petals from the funeral flowers over themselves, and like that should be so hokey, and it's not, because they've constantly got the right amount of acidity like running throughout it. Like, it's constantly brutal enough to let them have these sweet moments, and they feel earned. Like, man, when they're throwing the flowers over, it felt earned. Like, these three kids went through something and are all growing up together now. Had a very Party of Five vibe in the best possible way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I absolutely adore this show now. Absolutely fantastic. Of course it's over. Whatever Josh Thomas does next, I'm sure will be worth watching. Whatever Kayla Cromer's doing now, I'm sure John Paul will sign off in the comments and let us know.
Keep us abreast of it.
I'm sure he's told me already.
High recommend from the TV dudes. Good work, John Paul.
Yeah, absolutely great work.
This is not an invitation to send me more recommendations.
But everyone should go watch Everything's Gonna Be Okay right now. It's at least the first episode. You will not regret that hour of television. 44 minutes of television. Well, that about wraps it up for us this week. Tune in next week. We're going to chat about Death and Other Details, the new crime series starring Violet Bean and Mandy Patinkin.
Ooh, the Patinkin, as you wish, baby. No, that's not his line.
No, his name is Inigo Montoya.
But while he's looking for the right man with the 6 fingers on his right hand, you can head over to patreon.com/tvdudes to choose your own show like John Paul did this week. And you can hear more bonus content like our review of Captain Simeon and the Space Monkeys.
So, until next time.
TV Dudes.